And the Buddha, and from the Buddha, that was approximately 2,500 something years ago in India. And the teachings that he gave have been carried forward, and they've been commented upon and modified and amplified, and details have been sort of added into it to expound it more fully. And it's been affected by, it's been received in different cultures in Southern Asia, in Central Asia, and Eastern Asia, and the West, of course, which is fairly new. All these kind of, the Buddha's teaching is really something about the mind. Naturally, the mind is affected by society, culture, dispositions of people. And so in that sense of meeting people where they're at, then certain qualities, traditions emphasize certain qualities that are perhaps more supportive or more already present for people. Like in Chinese, you've got kind of Chinese cultural motifs get woven into it. In Sri Lanka, you've got Sri Lankan motifs and cultural viewpoints, and so on. Tibet, same thing. So we're trying to go right back, even if it's just fairly theoretical, to as far as we can to what's most primary in Buddhism. Buddha is the most primary thing, and his experience of realization. And this is always presented as sitting under a tree. Something stable, sitting under a tree and dealing with mental, emotional, spiritual, psychological, cosmetological phenomena. Not sights and sounds, but touches, but something of this psycho-spiritual, emotional sphere, which is huge for all of us, and contains our aspirations, our fears, our urges, our plans, our ambitions, and our dreads, our anxieties, dealing with this. But then using a stable body as a fundamental presence and theme. To the extent in which, at least in the Pali version of the Enlightenment, the Buddha takes up this particular position, having spent 6 or 7 years undertaking various austerities with the aim to somehow pacify the mind by purging it of all sensory disposition, sensory phenomena. So trying to get any sense of what happens when the senses touch us. We get happy, we get anxious, we get excited, we get whatever. So all this, try to exterminate this and get something more pure. So then essentially, well, maybe if we just sort of suppress the body. This body seems to have all these needs, hunger, thirst, sleep. It always needs something. So if you can kind of cut that out, then the mind will be freed. So then undertaking these powerful austerities, and he said he could get to some pretty remarkable states of mind. Immaterial states, without any sense of any sensory phenomena arising, removed from the body. And they would last for a period of time, and then he was back again. into this physical form, or the awareness of this body. So I keep doing this. Done as no one could have gone further than I. No one could have put more effort into it than I. No one could have exerted themselves any more than I did to do this, and it still hasn't borne final fruit. What about if I just put that aside, that attitude aside, as painful, as stressful, as harsh, and instead came to a more softer, could say, gentler, trusting attitude, which he likened to the experience he'd had when he was a child, sitting under a tree, in the shade of the tree, being quite calm, cool, peaceful. His father ploughing the fields near him. So he obviously felt there's his dad, secure, safe, sitting on this tree, nobody's bothering me. And he found himself feeling happy. He said this happiness was not conjoined with sense pleasure, it was an emotional happiness, a sense of comfort, stability, and trust. And that was pleasant, but it wasn't tainted with greed. It wasn't acquisitive. It wasn't corruptive. It was just a kind of simple, pleasant happiness. Then those kind of harshness, driven states, dogmas, all this stuff disappeared. Future, past, that disappeared. I'm just quite contented. Maybe this is worth following up. And so he did. There's noticing in that condition breathing, how the breathing felt, steadying in that. And this breathing seemed to pick up. The breathing in the body seemed to pick up the qualities of brightness, and it began to spread through his body and mind and eliminate stress, care, craving, boredom, lethargy, jealousy, pride, all these qualities which he summarized as the host of Mara. Mara, the confuser, the death, the contaminator. And so through that, coming through to deep realization, as the mind cast away its fetters and constrictions. Powerful realizations, the first of which was a sense of this mind or this spirit or this goes on and on and on through life after life. And it's going towards either benevolent results or painful results. And there's also could be an end of that going on. This is his great realization through contemplating this tide of psycho-spiritual phenomena held within the presence of the breathing body. Because the qualities of the breathing body, as it became steadier and calmer, just checked the energies of the mind running into any of this aims, ambitions, worries, defense, so forth. Just cut it off. You can see quite clearly the possibility of a realization which had no drives in it, no should, no pressure, no future, no past, no got to, no have, no regret. Kind of the energies of that ceasing, resting, and within that, the experience of realization. even though those psycho-spiritual energies were stopped, arrested. It wasn't that there was nothing there. What was left was awakening, nibbana, deathless. So that's and so then so often he would teach, saying, "Here, look, here are roots of trees. Absorb, get into the simplicity of this breathing body. Absorb into it while you can. Don't waste the opportunity. I'm teaching this for your welfare. Within this body, its perceptions and feelings and consciousness is the arising of your world and the passing of your world and the path leading therein, which takes you out of stress and suffering." So the world is our world of our memories, preoccupations, concerns, hopes, so forth. And they're all moving, aren't they? And we can refer to them. We experience them. What is their fundamental characteristic? Whether they're profound or mundane, bitter or joyful. What's their fundamental quality? We feel them all. We feel them, right? We feel moved by them. We feel affected by them. We feel them. And if you think of your life, what you can remember of your life, what you remember most strongly is what you felt most strongly. And things you didn't feel, you've got no memory of. Right? So all that you can summarize as yourself in terms of your historical past can be really summarized as a bunch of feeling. And if you go into memory, when was that? Was that 2 years ago or 4 years ago? When was she around? Was that 15 years ago or 7 years ago? You don't have numbers on it. You just have feeling. And you have to really sometimes struggle to try and get a sense of, yeah, I was in that place. That must have been 10 years ago. Yeah, because it was in Dresden or Amsterdam or somewhere. So yeah, it must have been 10 years ago. You have to figure it out, don't you? So the time and the place are really secondary and take some work. But the direct experience is, that was awful. What was really kind of interesting, because it went from strange to quite beautiful, It went from tentative, didn't feel very confident about that, and it gradually warmed up and it was really good, and then it sort of went strange and disappeared. What was all that? That was feeling, wasn't it? It all felt. And then when we aim for the future, we may aim to get some work done, or get enough money to get a decent house, or find a partner, or have some kids, or whatever, or retire. What are we aiming for? What are we aiming for? Feeling. Pleasant feeling. Right? You boil it all down, thinking, I don't want to aim for, I'd like to have a miserable time with a miserable person living homeless, living on a street. No, don't want that. Or maybe I do. Then that will be pleasant feeling as far as I'm concerned. We're always aiming, so we're looking at feeling, and the effect of it. So now you really get a sense of this person who can seem really quite complicated, analyze it, quite complicated. But basically, it's just the variations of feeling. And what does feeling do? Yeah, you feel something. What does it do? It moves, doesn't it? Something moves. Right? Yeah. So even if you get the sense of, oh, I understand what he's talking about, what happens? Energy moves. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, confusing. Felt that, right? Energy moved, and it's something moved. You say your mind moved, perhaps, or your emotions moved. There's a shift. Energy moved. That movement of energy, that's your life. Is basically a movement of energy that's felt. Yeah. And it's aiming, surely, to the most comfortable possibility. And if we really get a sense of that, it'd be nice if it was a little bit like us, I don't want volcanoes every day feeling, like just kind of steady state, pervasive warmth would be nice. And we probably recognize that's maybe not going to happen, yeah? But you can begin to sense qualities that give rise to the most supportive movements of energy. When feeling moves energy, energy moves. So when that energy moves, it normally goes into, now I'll do something. It's a great idea, feel really good about that. Then I will say something, I will write something, I'll go somewhere, I'll meet someone. There we go, we're going to put it into action. So more the energy moves into an active mode called direction or intention or choice, chaitana. And we follow that. So that's what's happening, isn't it? Now, if we really get to the sense of what is it that feels anything, I think your mind feels something. So you have a thinking mind, which is able to use energy to bring up thoughts and weave thoughts and scatter thoughts and build up trains of thought, powerful energy. That process isn't really about feeling anything. It's about constructing concepts and ideas. That's its job. Concepts, ideas. And another aspect of mind is about feeling that, like that feels an agreeable idea. That feels something. Yeah. And of course, many other experiences, we have a few thoughts, but perhaps quite profound feeling like tragedy. Your mind just stops. You think, oh, it's so awful. And your mind stops thinking, you just feel this flood of grief or hurt, saturates. When you come into the real quality of feeling, where the energy really is, it's moving in terms of heart, and when the heart moves in terms of body. That is as you can probably immediately recognize, the really profound feelings affect your body. You sink, or you rise up, or you contract, or you expand, or energy rushes up into your face when you're happy, joyful. And it sinks when you're depressed. It flares when you're angry and upset. And it goes hard when you're driven and intense. The energy takes these shapes. That drive us. And those shapes begin to have a kind of a lasting effect as we recognize. Probably, when your energy is driven a lot, then you get a kind of stressed condition. When energy is shaking around, you get a stressed condition. When energy is scattered, it can be quite agreeable, but you get a stressed, depleted state at the end of it. And these are all experienced not just psychologically, they have a bodily effect. You feel weary, joyful, driven, so on. And the body is actually receiving these felt energies. And this is where it's extremely useful, because when the thinking mind is not about feeling anything. So with a good idea, just based upon a good idea that we find exciting, we can be driven into all kinds of propaganda, dogma, false beliefs, happening politically. Obviously, commerce and advertising is about creating images that will stimulate us and get us driven into certain shops and buying things and getting things and so on. So the mind is easily seduced, and it gets fascinated and driven, to the point to which people can lose touch with the feeling that's actually the most important theme of experience, because that's who we are, if you like. As I've been explaining, we are that tide of felt experience. If we lose touch with it, what's happening? Well, there's no emotional moderation for a start, because the thinking mind is not emotional. So there's no emotional moderation, and there's no embodied sensitivity and proper management of energy. So people are driven, and also there's no way of balancing the drive of the mind. The mind is driven. And in this disembodied state, whereby the sense of the body is closed or not apparent because we're so fascinated by our thoughts, our beliefs, our ideas, our missions, and so forth, we lose contact with that. And certain fundamental heart realities are also disappear. And these heart realities are to do with loving kindness, but fundamentally to do with relational sensitivity. So when we feel things touch us, and we respond. And of course, the most obvious thing that touches us either physically or just even as a perception is other people. We're extremely attuned to the presence and the dispositions of other people. We tune them, we get that emotional response. And again, as creatures, we're designed for this. This is how we survived. Because basically, on our own, we're pretty pathetic. I can't run as fast as a chicken, even. The fastest runner in the world, Usain Bolt, can't run as fast as a jungle chicken, and that's and he's considered supreme. So we're pretty pathetic. But what made us so superior was our ability to form tribes and groups. Say we'll work together, we'll cooperate. You do this and I'll do that. We'll figure this out and we'll work together. So even more than our profound conceptual intelligence was our ability to form cooperatives. So we're tuned to certain emotional relational intelligence. And that's not about handling concepts. It's not about forming ideas. It's about receptive, tuning in and receiving. And the fundamental way in which we tune in and receive each other is we do body signaling. Body is not just a physical thing, it's actually it's a communication system. Yeah. So here I am using my hands. How many people use their hands when they speak? I speak. Many people use their hands. There's no sound coming out of those things. What happens to your face when you see other people? When you look at each other, just what happens if you raise your eyebrows or frown? What does that mean? Look at somebody and frown. What does that mean? And of course, the big one is, what do the lips do? Smile, frown. And that, at the age of 4 months, that is a profound message, isn't it? That face thing. And we didn't have to get told that. Nobody told us, look in your person's face. You are tuned by nature to look for communication through the body from another being. And you'd recognize that's a human being and it's smiling, must be good. Yeah. And so this sense of the body as an expression, as a communication signaling system, because it's actually through this body and its signaling that the emotional quality that we experience is communicated. Right? We communicate emotionally through the body, partly through the voice tone, but body even more immediately than that. And so certain areas of your face or your body light up, or your body moves. And of course, if you come across, or you see in a movie, it's a person who's completely stiff-faced, doesn't move their body, you think, oh, he's dangerous. Doesn't move his face or his eyes when he talks, looks at you. Yeah? Fear. This is a dangerous person, because something you sense is not emotionally connecting to me. This is dangerous. He's probably a kind of a guard or a spy or criminal, because he's not connecting to me emotionally. Yeah, he's cut that off. And something in us knows when that cuts off, we're in trouble, because this is when brutality begins. I don't care about you. And this is where brutality occurs, which is the very antithesis of the cooperative, nourishing human continuum, helping each other, is this sense of cutting off. And something that knows that. You see anybody do that, you see them on the film, say, looking like that. This is a person who is capable now of committing acts of brutality, will not listen to me, and is unconcerned of my welfare. And we recognize that. How do we recognize that? Do we think about it properly? I imagine not. Any more than when you first open your eyes, you see the smile. You think, well, that's fine. It's very embedded in our being. We look for those signals. And if we get a signal of non-communication, the emotion is dis-ease, even dread, fear, and we begin to recognize that when that emotional referencing cuts off, then the human being as brute arises. And our history surely is of that being evidence of that, the utter merciless brutality of human beings is well chronicled throughout history, well chronicled. And when they were doing this, I'm sure they weren't going, "Hi, hello." Just, body language. Now, whether we're maybe that's kind of a sidetrack, but just recognizing, the body as a signaling system, and also the ability to switch it off. And what occurs when we switch it off? We lose empathy, we lose emotional sensitivity, we lose the sense of the other being, and we lose a sense of something about ourselves is also lost. Our receptivity. Because the emotional signaling, the body's signaling, is not just to others, it's also to ourselves. Something is telling the heart when the body is flowing and signaling, something said, "That's okay. I can shrug it off." What do you mean shrug it off? Why do you do that? Why do you go, "Oh, it's okay"? Why do you do that? What is the body telling you when it does that? What about when your fists clench and you go, "I've got to do this, I've got to get this done by tomorrow"? Oh, no. What's the body telling you? So this is also signaling. The heart sending signals to the body, and the body sending signals to the heart that generate particular forms of action and preoccupation. That are profoundly significant. Now, what about if we just tuned into that process so that the signaling system itself is clean? So we're not signaling, when we're worried, what's that? You feel something churning. Maybe you wake up in the night and you feel restless and churning and your body's not comfortable. Worry, or you get something like people talk about something being on their back. Something's on my back. So you get this sense of parts of your body feel preoccupied with negative emotions and feelings. What about if we went into that and were able to clear that and clean that, so the body was just cleaned of those signals of the heart? Wouldn't this be a way to actually clean some of our emotional residues? And in Buddhist practice, this is exactly what it's about. You recognize the capacity to go abstract, which the Buddha did. Leave the body altogether. Leave the material sphere, go into the immaterial sphere. He says, no, this doesn't go very far. We realize also the Buddha's awakening is based upon being within a body, and we get to sense the ramifications, the full meaning of that. It means within this body you're in touch with the feeling quality, the energies of feeling that have formed your life, what you remember of it, formed who you feel yourself as being, hinting at where you want to go in the future. They are the ongoing script, the feeling energies, the ongoing script. And it's not just about the future of the place, in the very present, here and now, it's shaping how you sense yourself. Now, if that were fully comprehended, understood, and cleaned, so there was not sensing yourself as someone who's got to be this or shouldn't be that. You weren't sensing yourself as someone who's carrying a lot of this memory and really concerned about the future. You weren't sensing yourself as that. What would you be sensing yourself as? Clean, open, awake, restful, sensitive, not shut down, not ignoring other people, but not reaching out into it. And how would that? So could this be the way to awakening? An awakening that's very human. It's not. It's, you could call it mystical, or which in fact it is, but it's also deeply human. This is why it's still so relevant today. So this isn't just some kind of esoteric piece of Buddhist mysticism. It's actually dealing with the pragmatic experience of our daily lives. Our tendency, perhaps more than ever in our technological age, to leave the body behind and go into abstraction, technology, plans, machinery, gadgets. We're in that internet, go abstract. And within that, the loss of contact with our emotional sensitivity towards ourselves and towards others, to the point in which human beings in themselves become stressed, deeply stressed, in states and in nations which are relatively affluent, where food is available, people are physically quite healthy, and yet stressed, driven, taking medication to get to sleep at night, go to psychotherapists to get themselves sorted out because of anxiety, depression, addictions of various kinds. Because their emotional system is not getting fed, because they're not in their bodies. We're up in the clouds with all the wonderful progress in the clouds. We leave the body behind. Look at the results. People are nervy, breakdowns, addictions, restless, relationships get very difficult. Society has a lot of inner conflicts with it, because people are no longer in that sense of bonding, cooperative, sensitive, and grounded in themselves. So there's a huge loss in human welfare just in this alone. So as we try to bring this awakening teaching in, this Buddha teaching in, it's not just about some kind of monastic mysticism. It's about caring, cleaning your embodied condition, to the point to which the energy system knows how to discharge the stress and the speed, knows how to bring in the calm and the benevolence. This means that your mind is firmly steadied, your emotions are comfortable, and your body is no longer being stressed out by massive doses of adrenaline and pressure and so forth. This makes it all extremely relevant for us in here and now today. So I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for listening. And if you'd like to take a little few moments to ponder any of this or any other questions or topics you'd like to bring to my attention, we have another half an hour or more to talk things over.
So, I have a question. Can you talk about how the discharging of these energies in the body can happen?
What?
How it can happen, like how it's done?
What?
The discharging of the energies in the body.
Discharging of energies in the body.
Yeah.
Primarily through breathing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but breathing itself is quite a profound topic, because I'd imagine most of us assume breathing is what happens in our lungs, and yeah, that's the we say the material aspect of it. It's the energetic aspect of it that's really far-reaching, and every one of us can experience the energy of breathing out as resting. Now, if you've actually exercised what I was touching into, expanding awareness, expanding attention, expanding awareness, and you continue expanding awareness and you connect your awareness to breathing, which is what fundamentally mindfulness of breathing is about. And you begin to, as you get connected to it, you connect to the fundamental energy system of the body, because that's breathing. The energy of breathing is right at the center of the moderating the energy of the inner body, of the signaling body. Breathing, it moderates that energy, and so that energy carries our emotions. Right? So we get emotionally stressed, you get the energy rises, you get emotionally expansive, calm, joyful, energy moves, and the moderator of that, or what it connects to, can be governed by breathing. So it's called kaya sankhara, bodily formation, bodily energy. Now, so with deepening into that, as you get more and more aware of breathing, then and absorb into it, it begins. You can feel it moving through your entire body. Yeah, and that by itself, without anything more than that. That quality by itself discharges tension, stress, relieves numbness, dullness. That's just what it does. You don't have to do anything more than that. But to keep connecting, wherever you feel the breathing is flowing comfortably, keep connecting that to areas that seem to be depleted or stressed. Yeah. So, and this is because often a meditator many people when they meditate tend to have an exclusive sense. That is attention. And attention is exclusive. Do you understand? When you attend to something, you ignore other things, right? So normally we attend to 5% of what's possible. Yeah? And that means so you put the other things to one side. And most of our attention is normally associated with the visual sense, which is extremely selective. 1%, 5%, the rest of it blurs out. Yeah. And so when meditators by default tend to go to that mode of attention in order to get focused and concentrated, this is the general thing with meditation. And so it's an exclusive kind of process. We're trying to get to the calm, gentle, quiet bit and get rid of all the messy stuff. And that has a certain restricted quality. So the action or the action of attention when it constricts intensifies. It doesn't do discharge. It does intensify, and then it maybe does shake or distract, but it doesn't do discharge. You can't do it. Yeah. And it wasn't what the Buddha, and the Buddha didn't actually teach that.
Didn't he teach, sometimes the instructions read like this, like, the in-breath is long or short or whatever, kind of seems to imply that you really, really pay attention just to the quality of the breath rather than where it flows and where it goes and what it does.
That's the beginning. And then thoroughly sensitive to the entire body. That's the next bit. So, and then when you're attending to length, it's a sense of you're learning to expand your attention over an entire process of breathing in. So it's expanding in order to be with the entirety, the entire length of the breath. Whereas many meditators will tend to want to hold on to a point and hold that. So to be aware of the breathing long, you've got to be aware of the entire rhythmic process of it flowing and pausing. So that expands your attention. And it also deepens your awareness because you actually have to really listen, sense it. And maybe you'll begin to recognize, we use attention fundamentally because our fundamental organ of attention is the eyes. So that's what we assume attention is, something like that. You have another very powerful organ of attention, skin. Right? Now, how does the attention of skin work? How do you attend to something with your hand? Huh? Do you notice one profound difference? Right? When I touch something, it touches me. When I see something, it doesn't necessarily see me. When I touch something, it automatically touches me. So there's your emotional sensitivity right there. So now if you use attention like skin or like a hand, just that fact alone means you'll be receptive, sensitive, balancing, handling things as it happens. You'll be sensing, receiving, receptive, and probably gently contributing a steady and calming effect. Like, just take this steady. And that's because that's what skin does. Tissue with skin, you can stroke it, press it, push it, palpate it, scratch it. It's an immensely flexible sensing system, much more flexible than the eye. And you can touch things, you can get a reading from skin. You cannot see things with your eye, but it can pick up phenomena that are invisible to the eye. That's how acute it is. So why don't we use it? Because most of the time we're looking at her out there and that there. We live distant. And we think about the future. So we imagine the future is somewhere in front of me, right? You don't say the future is behind me, do you? Why is that? Because your eyes always point forward. So that's where you're going. So all of the language is based upon visual metaphors. I see what you mean. But that visual sense, one thing it builds in by default is distance. You can't see something there. Right? So it automatically, by its nature, brings in distance. And when things are distant, I'm distant from them. Separation, possibly to look the other way, possibly she doesn't see me anyway, I can look past it. With skin, there is no escape. You're right there with it, okay? And it's affecting you, and you're being affected by it. You like it or dislike it. So you have to go quite sensitive to pick it up. Now, what about if you think, well, actually, now what I'm doing is trying to track something in my body. What do you think would be the most obvious kind of attention to bring to something in your body? Bodily attention, right? Not visual attention. What's bodily attention is just that. It's the embrace. It's the steady hand, right? It's the gentle touch. that. So now if you're feeling your breathing, right, that means you're using an embodied form of attention. That's the most appropriate thing. And what that does, what the embodied sense does, it's able to touch something and release it. Yeah. Touch it gently and then release it. And you can feel that. So you're touching your body energy, holding it carefully and then releasing it, but still aware of it. And this process, when you're bringing that into the way, into handling your breathing, for example, a very easy piece, every out-breath comes to an end. Right? What happens then? In breath, right? Now there's a pause. And if you follow that line of breathing long, breathing short, the Buddha recommends, you're breathing long, the breath eventually lengthens. As it lengthens, you calm down because the long breath calms you. Right? It's a slow, steady energy. You become aware of the times, the moments when the breath fades out. And I'm aware that the energy has subsided. Right? Now, can you follow that? And if you follow that energy as it subsides, your mind will go, and then the breath comes in, and you get used to it. This is okay. I don't have to hold everything together all the time. I can go to that place where the energy, I'm still present, I'm aware, energy subsided, everything's releasing, and it comes back. The effect of that is that the breathing begins to get less and less because you use much less energy. Now, most of our energy is used in thinking and emotions, and nervous states. That process continues, the long breathing, calming and emptying. Nervous system quietens down. Nervous system quietens down, thinking quietens down, emotions quieten down. Not much energy being used. Therefore, the breathing shortens because you don't need any. It goes quiet. So sometimes you're barely breathing at all. Short. Well, this is that. Now begin to expand your awareness over as much as you can, just over what kind of body do you feel? Oh, all right, something. It's not the thing we see with our eyes. It's not what we imagine with our minds. It's a kind of a radiant energy body. And so, yeah, this is this one. This is the best one you can get. So the energy is calmed. The agitations are ceased. The drive is cooled. The passions are quelled. The negativity is unfolded and released, and so that's discharge. Something to really bear in mind, because generally, well, I mean, in the way the social models of our lives are, next thing, get one of those, and then buy one of those, then have a cup of tea, get the next thing, and then get your phone and click that, next thing, and then next thing, and then next thing, and then it's just ching, 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 ching. There's no discharge. It's just add more. Once you have a phone, you can keep going. Just one click. You see people going down the street just to get more stimulation. So learning to discharge, and discharge is not just a kind of sad collapse, but actually a refreshing, oh yeah. And then we've got something to rest on, which is our breathing.
I'd like to ask something about like our everyday life experience, like say we go to work and we are getting involved with some projects or with others, and we feel maybe we are not even aware about how we are losing connection with the body, with ourselves in that process. And what do you recommend? Like sometimes it's like you notice, wow, I'm completely in my head and I'm not connected at all. Like, what are helpful steps for kind of reconnecting?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very common because most of our attention is required to go out into possibles, not just visual, but mental possibilities, and to be juggling with many mental possibilities and concerns, and then mine, and then yours. Now it's going to meet. So we get very much into that territory, and indeed we think, yeah, to a certain extent we should, but how to moderate it. And so, this is where it's important to recognize, I'm thinking, I'm really losing touch here. I'm just banging around from one idea to another, or just caught up with an emotion and a thought, and they're just getting very intense. So as soon as you notice that, that's a really good sign. And the first thing is, don't start thinking about it. Because that just adds more. And don't worry about it, because that adds more. Don't criticize yourself about it, because that adds more. You just got to move out of that territory. It's actually what's happening in my feet, skin, body. And they, within, I would imagine, a few seconds. Doesn't take that much, particularly if you've been practicing in this line. Okay, what's happening? Shoulders are coming up towards the ears, not good. You feel the general tenor of the body starts to tighten. But then once you recognize, I was really in all this tremendous urgency to get this done, and I didn't really know how to body. And then it's that moment you recognize, you probably feel the tension in your head. Okay, then just tension in it, start to expand, chest, till you've got kind of a rough idea of your whole body. If you can get down to your feet, that's great. Just that movement. And the hands. So, and if you can't get all the way down to your feet, if you can just get your face, your hands, and your belly, that's good, because those are the signals where the signaling occurs. The emotions signal through these areas. So that guts are getting tight, let's just breathe out. Hands are starting to clench, let's release. Face is getting a bit brittle, let's relax. And that immediately shifts. So, but just being able to do that and take 10 seconds, with that, in that 10-second pause, you cultivate that, just get the mind to think, just bring them to mind what's important now. What's important now. Because as you discharge the jangle, there'll be one thing that seems more important, which is, one thing might be, check your speech. Okay, and then look for more time. Just say, can we wait a minute? Could you say that again? Give me a moment. I need to think about it. In other words, what most important thing is, don't get hasty. Watch your speech, don't get hasty. So you have two signals coming up, and you start to work from there. Okay, so we'll just, good point. Give me a moment to think about that. So you start to negotiate for more time, either to yourself or to another person. So that's the most important thing. Get more time, get more space, get less pressure. Because time and space means pressure or absence of. So let's get some more time and space. And then probably you begin to recognize, in that particular condition, nothing's absolutely certain, things are fluid. Don't look for straight lines. It's not going to be da, 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 da. It's going to be, maybe we could sort of work around this. Because if you can't throw a straight line at another person and expect a harmonious relationship. Because it's your straight line. So there's got to be a bit of wobble in it, movement in it, and a sense that it's tentative, and it's inviting negotiation. What is the line of connection between us? It's not going to be a straight line. There's no such thing. It's going to be a kind of a wave that can move, and will gradually build up, a strategy together. So be careful of straight lines. Black and white thinking, this is right, that's wrong. Careful of that, because those are attractive options to the mind. They're attractive, and there's a lot of backing for that kind of mental attitude, black and white thinking, straight lines, and also self-affirmation. I'm right. Of course I'm right. I'm always right. But you're always right as well. So you're right for you and I'm right for me. So let's just recognize we're both wonderful and right, and let's take a breath and see how we can sort of get those two rights, which are not the same, sort of meet in the middle of it's okay rather than it's right. So, so we try to avoid these sort of black-white thinking, straight lines, pressure, and then things are going to build. They're going to build, and that's wonderful, because in the person who has the fixed idea, there's only one possibility. Well, there's two possibilities: success or failure. Right? For a person who has no fixed idea, there's plenty of possibilities, because it could go anyway. So that makes it kind of interesting and mysterious and rather wonderful to participate in.
I remember you talking about like being in relationship with others is like, and it was at another time that you said that, but it's like opening up to a relational field and seeing what emerges out of that. And it's like straight lines are not part of that. It's more like a space
Yeah.
between here and there.
Relational fields, yeah.
And I feel like that's very helpful when I see I'm getting kind of very tired or caught up.
Yeah, well, the chitta, or the affective mind, doesn't live in your head. It lives in your relational field. Right? Because that's what it's, oh, I did that yesterday. It's relating to a memory of yesterday. Oh, she's my friend. Oh, I'll go and see her. That's what it's doing. It's always operating on this kind of very widespread relational experience, relationship to what happened in the past, the future, other people, yourself, phenomena. And of course, so it's always operating there. That's where it lives. It doesn't live in your head. It doesn't live in the world of abstraction. And so fields, relational fields, energy flows. Energy flows. Like if you just, example, just obviously a simple feeling of warmth towards another person. That's more like a suffusive quality, isn't it? It's not, oh, here's my warmth, bang, I shake hands and we're friends. It's not quite like that. It's a sort of suffusive quality. Yeah. As is things like regret. Suddenly you get this whole cascade of regret, and you go into that suffusions of regret, just cascades of it. So it's a different movement of energy. Now, when we have, or more directive forms, it tends to form something much more linear. I'm going to get to there by 6 o'clock. It tends to form something linear. But if we're sensing how we are, or how other people are, or how life is for us, it's more globe-like. We get a kind of a global sense of we're in something. The energy suffuses, and it can be, but then the most clear and steady suffusions are goodwill. Then it just flows very nicely. So regret, it's very choppy. Ill will, it's very hard, brittle. Yeah. And if you operate straight lines, just see how many actually get there. Because when you operate straight lines, sooner or later, oh, that's in the way. It didn't work out. I broke down. I had this idea, I'm going there by 6 o'clock, and then I was so really thinking again, so concerned to get there at 6 o'clock that I slipped over on the stairs and broke my ankle. That's where the straight line took you. Or I was going there and this idiot got in the way. So I got into an argument. Or the bus broke down. Or the traffic. Or, it just don't work. They just take us into frustration and recklessness. Yeah. It's a different energy. Yeah. If you've ever been to Bali, I don't know if you've ever been to Bali, the traditional house, there's the entrance to the house, the door, and within a meter or so of it, there's a screen. So you've got to go round it. You can't just walk straight in. You've got to go round it. And they say this keeps the demons out, because demons travel in straight lines. They hit the wall and fall down. So it's something to protect the house from demons. You have a little screen so the demon, you can only go in straight lines, can't do the bend. So watch out for those things, because demons do get inside us.
I have a question, but it's maybe a little bit out of context. The question is, that sometimes I talk with friends.
You talk with?
With friends.
You talk with friends, yeah?
What is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life?
Yeah, no, right, yeah. So I just want to ask you and hear from you, for you, what is the meaning of life?
What is the meaning of life? You're asking me. Well, you're alive. You're alive. I know you're alive.
Yeah.
So what does life mean to you?
So.
You're alive.
Yeah.
So what does it mean?
This means I'm alive.
Yeah, that's the same for me. And what is life? Life is breathing in and out. Yeah, life is recognizing change, recognizing pleasure and pain, recognizing self and others, recognizing birth and death. So put all those together, right? I think we would all agree upon that fundamentally. Strip it down, it's like that. When you put all that together, what's add all those up? What's the end result? Pleasure, pain, self and others, breathing in, breathing out. It means we're receptive, sensitive. There's mortality. There's mortality. We're all bound to die. We don't know when it will be. It could be tonight. What does that mean? It means wake up. Be aware. Don't follow fantasies. Don't hold on to regrets. Don't use your energy uselessly, churning out fantasies and ill will. Take every moment as precious. Open to it, listen to it carefully. You're bound in this condition to experience self and others. Even if the other is a mouse, you'll experience self and others. Even if the other is someone you knew 5 years ago, you'll still be sensing self and others. Therefore, that relationship is not something to be ignorant about. Let's be open, let's be sensitive, let's be respectful. Let's recognize we do not exist as independent entities. We exist in relationship to the earth, the air, trees, the plants, the animals, each other, human beings. We cannot exist on our own. It took a mother to get us born. It took a father to generate us. It took people to get us into birth. We learned from other people. We learned lessons from other people. We learn how to read and write and walk and speak and talk and work with other people. You can't cut that out. Therefore, respectful, grateful, caring. That's what life means. So it means several things. Wake up. Wake up to, to proper behavior. Wake up to proper care and relationship. Wake up to immediacy. And wake up to waking up. That's what it means to me. Yeah.
I read an article some month ago about some scientists that noticed that when we go in a new space, we automatically put to search enemy faces because the evolution put us to do this. So my question, because when or the evolution put us to search enemy because this was most useful to survive in our prehistoric time. So my question is, this body that we have to reconnect is full of desire and a lot of things. The question is, we should fight against this, our nature, our own nature.
So you say, the scientist presents the sense of our first moment of recognition is, where's the enemy?
Yes.
So we feel safe. We can make.
Yes, it was just an analysis, just a behavioral analysis. Notice that the our eye search this kind of just for an evolution. This was just an example. But our body is a body that is full of desire and fear and a lot of emotion. So my question is, the meaning of our practice is to fight against this
fear,
our nature.
Fight against our nature, which is fear and desire.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would suggest it's more about purifying it. Purifying it. Yeah. Because it's true, there is certainly a search, concern for where's the hostile. But if you notice, fear is always about what hasn't happened yet. Right? And desire is about what isn't here now. So we might recognize those kind of triggers that certainly do that, but also we can recognize and say, yeah, that's possible. That's all possible. What's actual? There's no fear and no desire. Because fear is about what hasn't happened, and so is desire. So what if they haven't happened, what is happening? Yeah. It's being. And yeah, so there's a movement there, because those qualities of fear and desire have to be qualities of fear and desire. The energies of them have to be understood as very primary to sensual life. Yeah, absolutely, they're very primary signals. But you can also recognize those signals. Okay, just you don't know. You haven't got it, you don't know, where are you now? So you can begin to moderate those signals, and maybe you receive the impulse and then just relax back into it now. Yeah. And through training yourself and more deepening that very primary base of being, you can begin to recognize to what extent is this fear signal useful? To what extent is it useful? How does it really protect me? Now, being sensitive to the possibility, that is useful. But if I'm riddled with fear, I get nervy, I get jumpy, I get agitated, I get stressed. Now, if you're in a forest, an Indian forest, yeah, there's snakes, there's tigers, there's poisonous stuff. You could fall down a hole. All kinds of terrible things could happen. So you better not be frightened. Because if you're frightened, you'll be clumsy, you'll be agitated. Just be sensitive, careful. Because the fear signal will flood you with an energy that makes you lose your balance. With fear, you lose your balance. You lose your steadiness. You lose your awareness. So fear, understandable, but useless. Desire, I want to get out of this jungle. I want to get through this jungle. I know there's a village on the other side with people waiting for me. I want to get there. Well, you start scrambling, you're going to fall over and fall down a pit and break your leg. So you want to get to the village, but you've got to calm your desire, because if you're flooded with desire, you'll be careless. So your desire becomes more a sense of there's a purpose, it's worthwhile. Let's see how I go. And ideally, if I have fewer desires, my mind's not going to be jumping off in every direction. It's going to say, this is a really useful purpose. I'm following that. The rest of this stuff, no. It may be nice, but this is the main thing. So then you channel your desire to clarify the mind, calm the heart, steady one's attention. That's skillful desire, because that's going to take you to the end of suffering and stress. And for that's worth sacrificing a beef burger or a Pepsi or something. So we've come to 10 o'clock. I heard some sort of buzzer went off, so maybe that's the end.